Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is the Rant. And today on the Rant, we're going to be talking about all things iPadOS 26 and the MACification of iPad. Finally, let's go. Boom! Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Jade, and this is the Rant, and I hope you're doing okay, and I'm really excited. I had another show planned today, but you know what? Sometimes you got to put things on the back burner for a little bit just to get a bit more time to make it a bit more juicy. We were going to today do a show about EPKs. What are EPKs? They are electronic press kits. And you really should have one. You really should have one prepared and set up for yourself. But there's something else I wanted to include in that show, so I'm just going to take an extra week to let it boil a little bit and brew, because I want this to help you guys and help you have an electronic press kit that on a whim you can just throw out. And it's just a very handy thing to have. But because of that, I thought I would talk about my experiences so far with iPadOS 26 and the joy that it has been to downgrade back to iOS 18. Let me tell you how much of a joy that was. Not fucking very joyful at all. It was quite horrible. But it was worth it to give it a go and have a look at how it works and all that kind of stuff. You're doing well out there. It is Monday morning here in Australia. Start of the week. We've got a massive week coming up here on the channel. App reviews, shows, and all culminating at the end of this week with the Music for Life charity album dual album launch night on Thursday and Friday if you're in the UK or US. And very exciting stuff. Let's give some shout outs. Now, this isn't a test stream. I'm just making sure this is a real stream. All right, cool. Thomas Christ, what's going on? Fact Panda Cat, g'day. Ron from Wallstone Studio. Matthias Prokowski, what's going on? We got a new song coming up. It's in the boil. Me and Prokowski in our band. What's our band called again? I can't remember. What's our band called? Something Meaties. Something Meaties. I can't even remember. What a great band name. It's really going to stick in people's minds, Matthias, isn't it? If I can't even remember the name, Matus, that's his name. Don't wear it out. Paws and Guitars, Russ8889, what's going on? Jenny Jolivet, Ali Grotilla. Don't tell Ali things. She'll believe anything, really. She killed a spider yesterday too, everybody. So everybody let Ali know. She's a terrible person. She killed a spider. I'm being a dick. Thanks, Thomas, for banging these links in here. You can do all these things to help out. All this stuff. I saw you commenting last night, Semtex Cow, all through the night. You must have been commenting as the video was going. Oh, man, I love. So our guest last week on the show was Studio 6+1, Dave, and I've never had a guest on the show where I've opened their show and played somebody else's song. I was so embarrassed. But it wasn't my fault. It was seriously, it wasn't my fault. The app that I had the song loaded into just switched songs. Because you know what the thing was? Before the show, we played that song about 3 times going, yeah, can you hear it? Yeah, everything good? And then as soon as the show started, it must have skipped to the next song. Oh, man, what a dick. These things happen. It was funny. Hey, you got to roll with the punches. It's live TV, you know, whatever happens, and you can't. We have to change it. I thought you were going to tell me what the band name was. Yeah, Ali's the spider killer. All right, so we're going to talk about this iPadOS thing. So let me start off by saying, if you have musical projects that you are currently working on, and you have an iPad, do not update to iPadOS 26. Please do not do it, for the love of God. Let me tell you my experience. So I don't have my second iPad in here, but I have an iPad 2018. So it's before the M class chips, yeah. So there was a 2020 iPad Pro before the M1 chips came out. So it's fairly old, 2018. It actually runs the new operating system, which to me is very cool. So I went ahead and I installed it. Very excited about these multitasking things and all this MACification of iPadOS. And guess what? Unfortunately, a lot of apps did no longer work. And a lot of things no longer worked. And the problem, so I'm getting all the bad stuff out of the way first. The problem is with my other iPad, it's my iPad I use on the couch. For when I can't be bothered coming into the studio, I'll set up a project for the next day's show, all from that, and then I can just dump the projects over to this iPad in here. Because I would never put it on this iPad, my M2 iPad, because it's my daily driver. And boy, oh boy, so many apps did not work. So many music apps, they kept crashing. Oh man, I can't tell you how many really simple things that normally should just happen did not no longer happened with iPadOS 26. It was it was there's a lot of bugs, and you know, I knew that going into it. I have a developer account, so I was able to download it very easily. And so here's the deal. I need to use it. So I had my fun playing with it and was like, okay, I need to go back to iOS 18 now. Wow. Let me tell you how easy that was. I had no idea it was going to be this hard, but I had to basically plug my iPad into my Mac and do a complete restore and bring everything back. And luckily I do backups every day, so everything came back and fine. But yeah, well, that's the thing, Thomas. So Thomas writes here, Apple are not big on downgrading. They're okay with it for betas. That's cool, right? They're okay with it for betas, but it's just not easy. And what if I don't have a Mac? You can do it on a PC. You can do it on a PC. So, yeah, because iTunes doesn't exist anymore as we know it, as we used to know it, yeah? But it's still like this shell of iTunes. It's like, it does a few things, but it's, yeah. And you got to remember, Windows still has iTunes, so you can still plug into iTunes and do it that way. So, but it was a really big pain in the ass to go back. So this is why channels like mine and Pete's, we constantly say, just be patient. Trust me, it's not worth it. But guess what? By the time they get through all these bugs and they get through all the betas and the public beta test when that happens, and whatever iPad comes out this year or whenever it drops, there's still going to be problems. Yeah, so there still will be problems once it drops officially. And I always normally hold off till around December, January, because once you get to what is it going to be, 26.1? Once you get to a 26.1.1 kind of thing, it's been in the wild, and there's been a lot of reports and issues, so it normally gets fixed. But the main reason, just remember, this has been released as a beta, is a developer beta first, it's for developers. So if you're not one, trust me, wait. But it will go public next month. So, you know, there's been a bit of time for developers to do bug reports, and there'll be some updates before it goes live to the public. I think I've made my my opinion very clear on public betas for iOS. I'm not for them. I don't agree with them. I think it causes more problems than anything because everybody downloads it. And then you've got a beta running in the wild, and then you've got, so this is why I'm against it, right? I don't mind people beta testing. The problem is the people who are beta testing when it goes to the public, there's a really high percentage, and I don't know it off my head, but I'm telling you it's high, of people who don't send bug reports. So you're really shooting fish in a barrel. And sure, Apple's collecting that data from people in the public, but once again, this muddies the water for developers, because now you're starting to get developers get emails going, your app's not working. And because, trust me, When a developer gets an email from just your general everyday Joe Blow who's just downloaded an app and goes, oh, it doesn't work. When they send a bug report, they're not going to be like this, and this. They'll just say, it doesn't work. And it could be like a few emails back and forward between the developer says, oh, you're on iPadOS 26. Oh, well, that's probably why. It's not optimized for that. So you see what I mean? You put in all these factors and you've got developers scratching their heads going, well, I'm not even using that yet. It hasn't even been optimized yet. So it kind of muddies the water a little bit. It's just a test, just making sure. No, I am live, aren't I? Yes, cool. So that's my opinion on it. But the other thing I want to talk about, so just quickly, we will get into some of the stuff in iPadOS 26, is that the new features on iPadOS 26 are amazing. 6 years too late, but they're amazing. They're really, really good. And I'm gonna go down some conspiracy holes today about the reason why it's taken so long for this to happen, because it is interesting to see. If we go into the history of Apple, let's talk about the history. A lot of companies out there now, forget the whole I'm anti-capitalism, I hate Apple, and people with their biases, and I hate Apple and I hate this, whatever. Just take all that out of it. A lot of companies out there who produce tech or electronic goods or anything like that, they are very, very scared to cannibalize themselves. And what do I mean by cannibalize themselves? This is in relation to, say, you release a product and then 2 years down the track, you release another product, a brand new product line, and that cannibalizes the original product line you had out that's doing pretty well. Apple have never been afraid to do that. They did that with the iPod Touch. When they released the iPhone took off. The iPod was still selling gangbusters because people just love that old school tactile touch compared to touchscreen. Apple released the iPod Touch. They did it with their Nano lines. They released Nanos, iPod Nanos that would make the last Nano obsolete. They've done it with so many things. They're not afraid to cannibalize their market lines, except for iPad. iPad has been, it's been a thorn in many iPad users' sides for the longest time because they keep updating the hardware and we keep getting better and better hardware that can do so much more. And the majority, there's a good number of people now who own iPads, and in that house, they might own a computer and an iPad and, say, an iPhone. The iPad's most likely the more powerful device in their house over the laptop, right, or the PC. It's got to that point where these things, these iPads are so powerful. But Apple decided for some, well, I'm going to get into the reason why I think, that they didn't update the iPad to move with the technology that was inside the iPad. So people got very frustrated. Why would I buy an iPad M4 with all this power if I can't do basic things? Why? Why would you do that? And Apple stalled on it. Instead, they went down another path. They decided to go for, let's try and make the Mac look more like the iPad, which pissed off heaps of people, especially Mac users, because there's always been a clear divide between the iPad and the Mac. The iPad can't do certain things. It's all app-centric. When you open an app, it opens full screen, right? And there's not much you can do about it. They've tried to add things like multitasking when you can come down here and say, let's do this. Let's turn on Stage Manager, where you can change the size of windows and open multiple things at the same time. So they've tried to do this, but it didn't really take off, did it? Look, even the reshaping of all this stuff it doesn't let you do much. Like if you can see, I'm using my finger to try and reshape this but it just only has three. What have we got? This one, that one, That's it. So there's only 2 and then full screen. So there's really not a lot you can do with the current set of multitasking that they have on here. And we all know this bullshit of swiping up to get rid of apps. It's annoying as fuck. It's really annoying. And so getting back to my tale here, a lot of Mac users were getting pissed off because they felt like, hang on a minute, you're dumbing down my Mac experience. I buy a Mac because it's a powerhouse. It's what I use for my business, what I use for recording music. And then all of a sudden, so we're talking over the last 5-6 years, probably less, probably 5 years, slowly but surely, the Mac, and here's my Mac over here, up there, and there's my iPad next to it. So I can move these around. I've got both mice working. So over time, they really it felt like they were dumbing down the Mac. Let me bring up the Mac on the full screen here. Here it is. It just felt like they were dumbing it down. And that really pissed off a lot of Mac users. Because at the same time, if you're going to dumb down something that most people are using for a high, they look at, oh, this is like the boss. This is the high-powered product that I can't use an iPad for. Then what's the point of having an iPad? So a lot of content creators and a lot of people have been saying for the longest time, where does the iPad fit? And I've heard so many people say, if the iPad had some more functionality of the Mac, I wouldn't need a Mac and I'd be able to travel a lot less lighter. Now, Apple know this. And it seems like this is the first time ever that Apple have been scared to cannibalize a product. And I'll tell you why that is. Now, if you haven't followed Apple for a long time, I have. Really, really long time, the financials and all that stuff and the way products come and the way they cannibalize stuff. The Mac has never been a high seller for Apple, regardless of what you may think. You see everybody with a Mac. When you look at the overall computer market, what sells, the Mac is still a very small slice of the computer market. Now, Microsoft make Windows, yeah, so they just make an operating system. But there's so many brands of computers out there that use Windows. That's just it. So the market share is always going to be larger for Windows computers because there's so many companies, Asus, all these companies that make Lenovo, all this kind of stuff, who use Windows. So that's always going to be a smaller market, a larger market than the Mac market. And the Mac market is small, and it's only been growing really big in the last kind of 10 years. Yeah, it's really only been the last 10 years. The iPad and the iPhone have been holding Apple's shit together. Let's just say that. Because if you take a look at their investor calls, you will always see that the Mac is small, iPhone huge, iPad below that. But again, over time, with these devices each year, they're so powerful as it is. So we're not getting these huge updates that we were getting back in 2010 and stuff. Go, wow, look how that's amazing. We're running out of things to do. The devices are being pushed to the limit everywhere. Graphics cards, every industry, chipsets are being pushed to the limit at the moment. We're on nano chips at the moment, nanomillimeter chips, and how much smaller can we get? So, the technology is getting very worn and abused, and there's not many places to go from there. So in knowing this, that Mac sales are very, very small, Apple, I believe, this is my conspiracy theory, they have held back iPadOS being as powerful as Mac, even though it has the internals to do it. They've been holding off because they want to squeeze as much out of Mac sales as possible. Get as many Macs in people's hands, release the Mac Mini, get a huge product line of Macs out there. So when they do finally pull the trigger on giving us iPadOS with Mac features, it's going to be like they can afford to take the foot off the sales off the Macs. I'm telling you, this iPadOS 26, for us as music creators, great to have a really powerful multitasking and such. But what gets really cool here is now we this opens up the door for so many creators, so many people who travel, journalists, vloggers. iPadOS 26 opens the door for people to have less shit in their bag. I'm telling you, when this actually drops, you are going to see so many videos across YouTube of people saying, I can finally use the Mac as my daily thing. Use the iPad as my daily thing. I can leave the Mac behind. Because believe it or not, it's like a millimeter or a tiny bit of weight, that extra weight on a Mac Pro compared to an iPad comes in very handy for people traveling, especially journalists and all these kind of people. And that little millimeter or that like half a kilogram or whatever it is that they're saving in weight going in their bags for traveling has more room for other stuff. And that's always a welcome thing. And if you can throw everything into your bag with just a piece of glass and some dongles, yeah, it's a no-brainer. So what exactly, all right, hang on, let me finish this conspiracy theory that I've started now. Thank you for hanging out today. If you're enjoying the show, leave a like or any of that kind of stuff. I think they've finally decided to take the foot off the brake and allow us to have this because it's inevitable. If they didn't do this now, they should have done it a while ago, trust me. Their downward spiral of iPad sales is going to continue. Why has there been a downward spiral of iPad sales? There's a few reasons. One of them is that the iPad is incredibly powerful. And the need to update an iPad is changing. People buy an iPad now and they expect to get 5 years out of it. It is being thought of already as a computer, as a PC. You buy it and you go, cool, I've just paid $3,000, $2,000, whatever. I expect to get some years out of this. And in saying that, that's what they're built for. This is what they've done with their M series chips. They've made it so you're going to get a lot of life out of it. And now's the time for them to add iPadOS to the MACification list. And this means, because I believe, this means we are going to have eventually the smashing together of them. And I welcome this. Basically, it's already a thing. You know, look, with my overhead camera. This, to me, is a Mac already. I've got a keyboard attached to it. It is a Mac. The inevitability of a Mac getting a touch screen is just around the corner. I'm not saying in the next year or two, but it's in that making. And trust me, there have been a lot of companies out there, Windows-based computers, that have tried to make these laptops where you lift the thing off and it's like an iPad, but we all know the truth. If you've ever tried to use any kind of tablet using Windows, it's a fucking terrible experience. It's really bad. And that's not the hardware. That's Windows. That is Windows. Windows has an infrastructure, a long-standing infrastructure of being shit. But kind of familiar. A familiar shit, if you know what I mean. But, and even with Android tablets, Windows tablets, all these hybrids that have been out for the longest time with saying it's a computer that you can lift the screen off and use as an iPad, they've all been absolutely terrible. Nothing has the ability to be as smooth and buttery and all that kind of stuff that comes with iPad. Remember, iPad is flawed as fuck. There's a whole lot of problems that we talk about on this show all the time and try not to balk. Apple is far from a perfect company that makes far from perfect devices. But in saying this, they really have knocked it out of the park with the iPad. There's no tablet that can stand up to it. So the inevitability of there being a Mac pad with just an iPad attached to a screen, which is right here, it's already here, right? And it's going to get further and further. And I just think eventually all Macs will have a detachable screen. It just makes sense. And a touch screen, why wouldn't you do that? Because what are they going to do? They're going to now have two products, both vying for each other's, and they know it, and that's why they've taken this bold move to upgrade iPadOS 26 to be more like a Mac, and they know it very well. It's got to be somewhere in their plan to do this, but of course they're going to do it slow. So what are these features that we have that are getting me so excited? Because my take last week. I sat here last week and did the whole what's going to happen at WWDC, and then I did a follow-up and I took the piss out of it. Right, but I do that for all these Apple events. That's just me. Everyone's so serious about that shit. I like to take the piss out of it because life's too short to be so serious about, like, I don't know, Windows over Apple. These are just consumer devices that we purchase for a lot of money to do things with. So we got given, and I didn't really talk about it on the shows last week, but we got given this, and it is this multitasking, and this is just going to change everything. Pete has done a show on this, Patrick Baird. I was going to do it. That's why I updated my iPad, but then decided, you know what? It's too half-baked for me to even do a show on it. It's more exciting once everything's going to be working, because nothing sucks more than when you're doing a demo of something and it doesn't work. So there's that. But multitasking, this multitasking stuff is pretty incredible. So as you can see here, it is Windows pretty much. And you can open, I saw somebody last week do a demo of iPadOS 26, and they opened 126 windows of the Files app. Just bang. Now you can kind of do that now already in a way. If you turn on Stage Manager and then I hit the Files app, and then I hit the Files app, can I do it again? Give me another one. Let's see. So I've got that one there. I don't know. Why is it loading? Let's see. If I grab another one, drag it. Look at that. I'll drag another one. I can kind of do this now just by dragging heaps of Files apps onto the screen. Oops. So are they disappearing? What's going on? Yeah, look. They're disappearing, but I still have a bunch of them on here. And I can still close them, but again, the resizing is very minimal. When now with iPadOS 26, you can reshape to any freaking size. Even though native apps for this multitasking that we already have is okay. But we have this split screen. We can add another window and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, this is already here. And for those of now with the new update, there is the old Mac 3 dots in the corner to minimize and close. That's kind of already been here. You can minimize and close. So it's not like it's new. It's just they've finally decided to make this look like Mac, so it's more familiar. Where here, it just looks like iOS. And people hate iOS. They do, especially on their iPads. Like there's just a lot of hate for... I'm just going to turn off this again. So we go back to full screen. Nice. So more windows at once. You can resize, rearrange. It's just really cool. The window tiling as well. So you can already kind of do this window tiling shit by, doing this and separating and having split screen. What I did see in the demo, in the beta, that was very interesting, and I don't see too many people talking about it. Split screen's gone. I couldn't get it to happen anymore. So it looks like at the moment split screen is gone. So if you like doing this, it's still there, but it's just done differently. You don't like pull down like the way that people were doing. I'm kind of happy with the flip flopping by Apple. You could definitely criticize them for taking too long, or just happy it's here. It did take too long. I don't give a shit. Like, I think it took too long. But I do understand that, like I said, there's a reason. They want to keep selling Macs. All right? They want to keep selling Macs. And I think they've finally got to that point where they've gone, yeah, let's make the iPad a Mac. So, interesting stuff with the window tiling. It looks pretty much, it is officially gone. Slide over is done. It's finished. It's gone. Expose. So, as I said, when you swipe up, we would get this, all right, with all the things that we have open. Well, Expose has replaced that. So Expose, you're going to get this same kind of thing, all the stuff that is open, but it's more Macified. Again, everything's more Macified, and it does make sense that they did go first making the Mac look more like an iPad. So then when they started to make the iPad look more like a Mac, it's not going to be too much of a shock. I think that's one thing Apple's always kind of done. They treat us like we're idiots, like we're babies and we don't know how to do anything. And yes, in the consumer market, there are a lot of normies. I've seen it. You may know I worked at Apple as a genius for a while, and fuck me. Some of the things people would come into the Genius store for. Oh, man. Just astounding. But that's the thing. When you work at Apple, trust me, a lot of the stuff there are from Hillsong. And if you don't know what Hillsong is, we call it here the happy clappers in Australia, the happy clappers. When I worked at Apple, there was a lot of people who were from Hillsong and very religious and very, yay, they would clap over weird shit and get sued. And I think that's what Apple look for in a lot of their stuff. I'm not going to lie. I worked there. I'm telling you the truth. They look for really gullible people who will toe the line and be like, we love Apple. They really do. Now, when I went for my role at Apple, I went for a role in the creative section, which would have made so much more sense than me being in the Genius bar. But I didn't get that, and they put me in the Genius bar instead, which I didn't want to do because that's the general stuff. I wanted to be a part of the creator team where you... Anyway, so, yeah, people who buy this stuff, the consumers, Apple look at them like any small change will scare the fuck out of them. You're not going to see your general consumers watching WWDC. They don't give a fuck about that. They just want to know if they can make an emoji or like how they can send texts and maybe have a group chat, or they just want everything to work. The majority of people who come into an Apple store are just to get shit fixed because they don't understand, and or get replacement glass. Replacement glass is the number one thing. MacBooks that the batteries are fucked. So your general consumers don't give a fuck about a lot of this shit. And Apple know this, and that's the way they market stuff to people. But again, one of the biggest changes too here is this. The ability now on your iPad to use the file edit. So you've got across the top of the iPad the ability to essentially be a Mac. To do this, to move your mouse up the top and where's my mouse? There it is. And you've got all these drop-down windows. That's exactly what it is. You've got this kind of thing happening over here. Another thing that you've got now on the iPad is down here. You can add folders to your tray, which you can open up and have access to. And you see this one here on, normally I have stuff in this. This is my downloads folder. Normally, so on the iPad now, when you add a folder down here, it will fan out like the Mac does. But not all folders do that, because I added a folder down here just with some files in it, video files, and it didn't fan out. But I was able to open it and a little window, much the same as like this thing here, popped up. So look, it's very, in my opinion, very, very exciting that we are getting all these multitasking features. They are definitely going to make the iPad more of a Mac. And you know what? It's come at a very interesting time for me because I have a Mac. And I bought it in when the first M1 came out. And I just don't use it. It's just sitting there doing fuck all. It's just been there since, 2021? And it just sits there doing nothing. And there's a reason it sits there doing nothing, because let me tell you, I find Mac's file system to be the most utterly frustrating bag of horse dick that I've ever come across. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I find it irritating. I find it secretive. I find it stupid. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And my Mac does some of the dumbest shit I've ever fucking seen. Can I make good music on it? Absolutely. The music part I love. I love that Logic's on there and GarageBand. Everything else, not into it. I'll give you an example. So the reason I'm giving you this example is I really don't hope iPadOS does go down the same path, even though there is this kind of thing already with the way Apple hides the way they store files. And so here's my pain, yeah? This week... last week I did an app review for an app called Fugue Machine Rubato, and this app comes with it's universal for iPad and for Mac, but because the developer gave me codes to be able to access it on the Mac, there's two separate codes, so I needed to download the one version on my iPad, and I needed to go and download the version on my Mac sitting over there. Now, it wouldn't let me download it. Why? Here's why. I haven't turned on that Mac for about 3 months. It's on reserve to come on whenever I turn it on or want to use it. It's on standby. But I haven't used it for 3 months. And the last time I used it, there was at least 35 gigabytes of space left on the main hard drive. Sure, it's not a lot, but like I unfortunately got a small hard drive. I got the 256 gig. I hadn't turned it on for 3 months, and when I turned it on the weekend, there was 5 gig left. I just want to know where the fuck 30 gigabytes went while the computer was off. Can I get an explanation from somebody, please? Can I get a memo, any kind of information on it? Well, guess what? You can't. And so I tried to install this app onto my iPad, and it informed me, no, you're actually not on Sequoia yet. I was like, oh, man, well, that sucks, doesn't it? Because I'm obviously going to need some space to install Sequoia. Awesome. Okay, so let's remove some stuff. So I removed a whole bunch of stuff. I actually cleaned about 30 gig off the Mac, ready to install Sequoia. Started the download, and it would download it. It started installing it, the little bar going down. Ted said there was about 17 minutes until it's going to do a reboot, and you get that Apple logo, and it reboots a couple of times. You know, the normal thing. Well, it failed. It came back and said, sorry, the update failed. So me expecting to go, okay, well, we'll just start the process again. Well, that didn't happen, did it? Because now I had 3 gigabytes left. Okay. Well, okay. Well, what do I do? So I tried to do the update again, and it said, you do not have enough room. You'll have to go in and clear some space. I'm like, fuck me, I just cleared 30 gig. What are you talking about? Okay. So I thought, I'm guessing that it downloaded the install, and because it failed, it stored the install somewhere on the computer, probably in the cache somewhere. I'll go find it. Wow. Wow. I looked, and I looked, and I read forums, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I couldn't. Where is it? And the consensus across Apple forums and many, many places was, you can't find it. Guess where it was? It was hidden in a little place that Apple like to call, and I'm sure you've come across it before, it's called Other. Ooh. Other. What the fuck is other? Where is the other section? Where can I find other? Is there a folder for other? Is this a specific place where others hang out together? No, other is inaccessible to, again, this is the frustration. Now, this is a Mac, remember. And you hear people all the time saying, oh, I couldn't use an iPad. It's such a closed system. Where Mac, I can get in and do whatever I want. Well, you tell me where other is, mother. Because I can't find it. But yeah, you would have seen it on iPads as well, the other section. So I tried to work out how am I going to find this thing to delete it to be able to do an update. Well, I couldn't, and I gave up and then decided, you know what? It's time to remove more data. So I moved more stuff from the Mac onto another external hard drive. I cleared another 30 gigabytes. No, it was about 25 gig. I cleared 25 gig. So I had like 28 to reinstall. Anyway, I hit, let's try again. Let's do the update. And it started updating. I'm like, oh my God, it's updating. Am I going to be stuck with this download in the other section? Well, no, because the update worked this time. And I've got, here it is. There you go. This Sequoia sitting on my Mac right now. It did some baffling shit, which pisses me off because it removed my screensaver, my background, which was my How to App on iOS logo. It just did things which I didn't ask it to do. All right, so that's cool. And then when I checked my memory after it was installed, well, guess what? I've now got 80 gig free. So I'm guessing what happens, for future reference, if a software update fails, it just puts it in the other until you haven't, because I guess they think that, we all have Macs that have like 2 terabytes on them, right? But not all of us can afford that. And we're juggling space all the time. And Mac make it very difficult too to install apps not on the central hard drive. Like, why can't I install a fucking app on an external hard drive? Why? I would love to see that. Anyway, I'm really interested right now to check out how much memory I have on my Mac because I haven't touched it since then. Oh, my God. Oh, no way. Can you see that? What does it say? I can't see there. It says 54 gigabytes. Where did they? What's going on? I haven't used it. I haven't used it since all this drama went down. I don't get it, man. I'm so confused about this shit. Where does it go? I just want to know where it goes. Where does it go? Where do you go now? Where does it go? It's very confusing. So, I know I went down a rabbit hole there, but the point I'm trying to make is that I really hope this doesn't carry over. Yeah, I think this is very frustrating. Yeah, iCloud has downloaded all the things. That is one of the things I don't understand. It just what it picks and chooses on the Mac. Like on the iPad, I've got used to it over years. I've definitely got used to it and can work around the iCloud randomness of what it's going to keep. But for Mac, I just haven't been able to get my head around it. So if you're wanting to know, I use a laptop to stream and I use my Mac for nothing. Absolutely nothing. But I want to use it for something. It'll probably end up replacing a computer in my lounge room at some point. But here's the thing. Why is, to me, this new update, because look, not only did we get this update for the multitasking, trust me, some of the other updates for this may seem very not important, but the Files app on iPadOS 26 is just wicked. Right now, something that I saw that's in the beta that isn't working yet, that is very exciting. When you attach a external hard drive to your iPad on iPadOS 26, there's an eject button. I know, right? There's an eject button. It's not working at the moment in iPadOS. It's there. But where is it? It's in the file. It's in the file system across the top. When you go across the top, it's there, and but you can't use it. It's grayed out at the moment. But they're actually listening to people because that has been a thing that has irritated me for the longest time. Right? They say you shouldn't unplug a USB stick or USB without doing the unhook the device from your system tray on Windows. That's what they say. It's good for the actual hard drive to do it that way instead of just ripping it out. Most people just rip it out, don't we? Come on. I'm talking to you. You know you do it. Come on. Anyway, so most people just do that. But to see that they've added this is huge. I've missed heaps of people here today while I'm ranting. Hello, Robbie Stingle and Sanderwolf. G'day. Sanderwolf sent me some great music yesterday. Meep, hello. If I missed anyone else, I know I've been on a tangent today. The bottom line is I'm fucking really excited about iPadOS 26. Super excited about it. Now, I don't know if you've seen this too. Now, when we did the prediction show last week, we said they weren't going to mention Siri, and guess what? They didn't mention Siri at all. Hello, Miss Stephanie. They didn't mention Siri at all, right? If you want to check it out, do a search for, I can't remember the name of the video, but I saw an interview with Craig Federighi and one of the other guys, I forget his name. They were talking about why Siri hasn't been updated. And, you know, typical Apple, they pretty much said by the time they got to this year, it just still wasn't doing what they wanted it, what they expect Siri to do, so they haven't released it. What I'm going to finish on today is something really interesting because, hey, Zach Thong, I find this super interesting. Let me just do a search for it. Apple. So, basically, Apple released a paper. Very interesting stuff. Right at the time they did WWDC, and a lot of this skipped under the radar. And a lot of people are saying this is sour grapes. There's a whole lot of things people are saying. This is just Apple. Anyway, here it is. This is called The Illusion of Thinking. Understanding the strengths and limitations of reasoning models via the lens of problem complexity. Apple released this huge paper. Look at it. Questioning the reasoning models of AI. And this comes at a really strange time, right? Because their Apple Intelligence is dog shit. It's crap. It's just really shit. They're so far behind the game. But instead, they've made this complete thing to derail AI, which is, and you know what? There's a lot of people that are agreeing with this. So basically, they took a whole bunch of simple games, not simple games, games that get more complex over time. And they tried to test it with all the leading AI models without reasoning turned on and then with reasoning turned on. And the more complex these things got, the AI models just quit. They just gave up. They just stopped trying to try and find the answers. And it's very interesting because the illusion that these AI things, so here are the games. There was Tower of Hanoi, Checkers, River Crossing, and Blocks World. And all of these things, the AI eventually just gave up and couldn't be fucked thinking about it. And this is there's a number of reasons why this happens, and the number one reason is that a lot of these AIs that are out from ChatGPT and all that have rails. They have safeguards because they don't want people like, they don't want us, because people, you know what I'm saying? People do people things, and, that's what happens. Look at Grok, Grok will let you draw a picture of, somebody you don't like with a pianist in their mouth. It's so there's reasons why the reasoning can't do it. Anyway, it's just funny that Apple have come out and said this, and at the same time, there's a lot of big people in the AI space who are saying, yeah, we're at this conclusion too, that reasoning models aren't actually reasoning. They're just spitting out shit. And one of the tests in this paper here that they did was they gave it tests on things that were available online, answers where they could find the answers. But when they did tests that there were currently no answers for things online, the models just broke down completely. So is this Apple just sour grapes because their AI is shit? Or is this actually legit? Are they have Apple come to the conclusion after years, because you would have expected that they've been doing this for a long time too. They haven't just jumped in the game. Apple are always pretty much last to the party with everything, right? And that's what people bitch about. But as they say, they just want it to be really good when it comes out. Is that spin? Is it marketing? Who knows? Getting back to the last point, with iPadOS is very exciting. And if you own an iPad, you should be excited. Don't be that excited that you get it as soon as it drops. But we should be excited about it because it finally does make the iPad what it should have been a long time ago. And that is really exciting. And it's helped me make the decision, do I need a new Mac? Absolutely fucking not. I never wanted a Mac. Why? Because it's another thing over there taking up space. I'm very happy making music on my iPad. What I wanted was more freedom on my iPad. And this is the first steps towards that. And that is very exciting. I'm telling you, by iPadOS 27, things are going to be very, very fucking interesting, because once they dip their toes into this, and once I do believe this is going to really inspire a big surge in iPad sales. I really feel it, because there's a lot of creators, a lot of YouTube channels who've been talking about this for the longest time, about when is this going to be a legit replacement for a fucking computer. And it's getting there right now. This is the building blocks. This is the biggest change to iPadOS that has ever happened. And give us more, the thing is, if you own any kind of M series Mac, these things cost thousands of dollars. Apple, let me use it. I mean, if you didn't know, for the longest time, even with this is only very recently this happened, a lot of iOS devices, just say you bought a new iPad M3 with 16 gig of RAM, you weren't able to use that 16 gig of RAM. They had put safeguards on there to allow apps to use so much. Oh, only 8 gig here, because we've got it was only recently that they unlocked all of that. So the available RAM is there. So people getting so excited and saying, oh, I got 16 gig of RAM finally. It's like, no, you're not, because they're not allowing you to use it all at one time. So, it's only recently that we're getting this. And yeah, I'm very excited about the future of iPad. And I never wanted to buy a Mac to make music with. I'm very happy with my iPad. All I wanted was to be able to use my iPad with some of those Mac features. And I don't know, maybe while you're at it, Apple, I'm going to finish on this today and dump you all over, because Pete Johns has got Your Music Live coming up. I'd like to have Apple release a paper as well on how to find where all my space goes on my Mac. Craig Fegedorigi, can we get an Apple white paper on where the fuck does all the space go on Mac when the computer's turned off for fucking 3 months? I'd love to read that paper. I don't think it's going to happen, is it? Hello, Leela. All right. We're going to get out of here for today. Let me tell you what's coming up this week on the channel. We've got some really big stuff coming up. Very exciting stuff. Tomorrow we're taking a look at a brand new app from Audio Thing called TypeX Vintage Expander. When I saw this drop, I was on the beta actually, and I was like, do we need another vintage expander? And then I put it on my vocals, and fuck me, did it sound good. Very, very cool. Very impressed. Got another couple of app reviews, demos happening this week. They're just not public yet. I'll make them public. I think we're looking at the new AudioKit Pro app, J6, if it ever comes out. But also, the big thing this week is Thursday and Friday. Finally, we have the Music for Life charity album that so many people have submitted music for. 60 artists. I think it's going to be across 3 albums, and we're doing this on Thursday and Friday, 2 nights, because me and Russ really can't sit there for 5 to 6 hours doing this in one go. So we're splitting it up, but 2 nights, and very exciting stuff. If you didn't know, yesterday on my Patreon, we drew the order for the albums. So if you are a Patreon, you missed the show yesterday, you can see us drawing. So if you didn't know, the numbers, the order of all the artists on the album are drawn randomly. So whatever happens, happens. Whatever we drew. I sound like Donald Trump. I'm a wanker. So that is happening this week. Very exciting stuff. And the last thing I want to share with you is we're doing a very special creative hour this week. The Creative Hour is doing something a little bit different with my very special guest, Laurie's Mishmosh. And I'm not telling you any more about it. You'll just have to come along and see. I haven't even told Laurie what we're doing. In fact, Laurie sent me so many texts today saying, what is this about? And I just keep writing, So she doesn't even know what I'm doing. So if you want to come and see that, that is happening this week. All right. We got Pete Johns up next. Thomas has very graciously posted the link there. Thank you, Thomas. Music for Life, launch night 1. Go on, he set a reminder. It's going to be rad. The songs, there's some fucking incredible songs that have been sent in by you guys. You're just a talented bunch of human beings. Very exciting stuff. Hopefully we can get the album finished before then. Alrighty. Pete Johns, I'm going to dump you over. Thanks for hanging out on the rant today. Always a pleasure, never a chore. And I'll dump you right now. We got a minute and to go out. I'm going to play the song that I made yesterday on the Creative Hour. This is called See You Next Tuesday. Let's go!